So all of the inquiry resources follow a very similar template. So I'm going to go through one of the resources with you so that you have an idea of how it works and what it looks like. So all of the resources start with the key principles that the writing team put together to make sure we're highlighted in all of the resources. They then go through some accommodations that you can make to help support all of your students and make sure that every child has some sort of say or a role in the inquiry. So it talks about some accommodations you can make during discussions to help support ELL learners or any students with language concerns, and it gives you ideas of what you can do to support them. The resource then gives you an outline and overview of what the inquiry looks like. So this was taken from the kindergarten program document, and it highlights that inquiry process on the left, but on the right side you see a table that goes through what the children will be doing during the inquiry process, as well as what the educators will be doing during the inquiry process. It's important to remember that while these resources give you an idea or a starting point of what you could do to start off an inquiry, what you could do to extend an inquiry and continue an inquiry, they're always meant to be ideas. The hope is that these resources will spark different inquiries, but that you'll continue to plan and change what you do for the inquiry based on what your students are saying and what your students are doing. The resource goes through some program connections that you can make as well. And then it gets into each phase of the inquiry process, and it gives you some ideas of some invitations for learning and some whole group discussions or read alouds that you can use to help support that inquiry. So each one has a similar template or table like this, and it goes through what materials you might need, some open-ended questions that you might ask, some ideas for setup. So each resource also goes through some documentation opportunities and some look-fors that you can use during that invitation for learning or whole group read aloud. So it talks about what the children might say or do, how they might represent their thinking, and also what educators might do or say to extend the learning. And it really highlights that assessment for learning piece because we know that assessment is always ongoing, and it's what really drives instructions and makes sure that this resource can be used to spark that inquiry, but then assessment for learning can be used to modify each activity so that it suits the needs, interests, and experiences of your class. It talks about how we might take some information of what the students say, analyze it, look back and really highlight what the students are thinking, and then what interests might be emerging, any misconceptions students might have, and again, that's being used to plan our next steps. So similarly, the rest of the activities outlined in the resource follow that similar model to help guide you through what you could do for different phases of the inquiry process.